Oh, listen, I don't doubt that Donald Trump is going to scream and yell and curse and insult and probably cry and whine some as well. That has been Donald's pattern. Now, I recognize everyone got all excited because last week Donald won his home state, which I'm amazed that's news anywhere. Of course, Donald won his home state.
Ted Cruz speaking to reporters after the Cruz rally in Borden, Indiana, and you heard him characterized Trump as a guy who would whine and curse and cry about the alliance with John Kasich. Well, just for the record tonight, it doesn't appear Donald Trump will be whining about the results in Maryland, Connecticut, and Pennsylvania. All those states have been called in the Republican column for Donald Trump. Let's continue our conversation now as we welcome in yet another guest, Skyping in from Northern Virginia, presidential historian Craig Shirley. Craig, also the president of Shirley and Bannister Public Affairs and the author of The Last Act, a great book about Ronald Reagan. Staying with us, former Lieutenant Governor of New York, Betsy McCaughey, Skyping in from Connecticut, and from Newsmax, New York, attorney and political consultant Sam Nunberg. Thanks to you all. And we welcome in via the telephone our first caller tonight from Maryland, one of the states holding a primary today. Here is John. John, welcome to Newsmax TV.
Hello.
Hi, John.
This is John from Crofton, Maryland. I try to call in and get my rights, out there, and I think my rights are being violated. I voted today at the little schoolhouse around the corner, literally, and somewhere around 7 o'clock I was checking to see what the volume of people going into the schoolhouse in Crofton Woods was. And I hardly saw anybody going in. And I'm wondering, there's supposed to be a high turnout today, and we want our vote to count. I agree with Donald Trump that these rules don't make sense. They make my vote useless. I shouldn't even bother to vote today.
Well, I don't understand why. First of all, congratulations to you because you took advantage of your civic opportunity and your duty and the franchise to vote. In terms of a turnout, you can't be responsible for your neighbors. But it's an interesting call we just got from John, Craig. And Craig, let me bring you in to assess this. John, on one hand, very supportive of Trump, and yet worried that his vote does not count. I guess it shows the effectiveness of the Trump message against the party elites.
Yeah, it sure does. Trump has been raging against the machine so long, it's trickled right down to primaries and precincts and little schoolhouses and right there in Maryland. But, we still believe that a non-vote in this country is a form of voting. And primaries traditionally, even in this year with high intensity and so much attention, primaries traditionally tend to be low turnout affairs, especially in a state with such a Democratic liberal history as Maryland. So I'm not surprised that Republican turnout in Maryland would be low today.
And let's turn to a state. Go ahead, Betsy.
But for example, it's been quite high. The turnout for a primary has been quite high in Connecticut, over 25%. And that's true in Pennsylvania as well. So in most places that held votes today, turnout was unusually high for a primary.
And of primary.
And let me also follow with the point.
Yes, go ahead.
Let me also follow up the point that Donald Trump will win all these states, but guess what? No matter who the nominee is in the fall, no Republican will win any of these states. So the point is basically moot about whether or not we have high turnout in Connecticut or Pennsylvania.
Wow.
Well, I disagree with Connecticut. Connecticut does have high voter registration among Democrats. But if you look at the recent polls, 68% of likely voters in Connecticut believe the state is moving in the wrong direction. And you're going to see a lot of Democrats cross over and vote not only for Donald Trump, but for the Republicans down the ticket.
Let us turn to another caller calling in from out west, a neighboring state to the one I used to represent, from Utah. Here is Ferris. Ferris, thanks for calling in from the Beehive State. What's on your mind?
Well, I have to tell you, I'm really happy and I'm a Trump supporter, but I have a new phrase for Ted Cruz, and that is he's always bobbied his head as he finishes each one of his things with his funny smile, and so we should call him Bobblehead Ted. That's it.
All right, we will. In Utah, he says, Bobblehead Ted. Sam, what say you as a faithful Cruz supporter now?
Well, he's from Utah. There's around 5 supporters of Donald Trump in Utah. In fact, the polls showed that Hillary Clinton would actually be leading Donald Trump in Utah in the general election, and a Republican has not lost that state since 1958. So, but it's funny.
All right, well, fair enough, and goodness knows people have had a lot of things to say about my appearance from time to time. Let's go full screen with what has happened thus far tonight. If you're just joining us, Trump projected the winner in Connecticut, Maryland, and in the Keystone State of Pennsylvania. Craig Shirley, you're our political historian. Just a second ago, Sam Nunberg was saying he doesn't think really any of these northeastern states will end up in the Republican column in November. And yet we get the news from western Pennsylvania, Beaver and its environs, that we have seen, 60,000 Democrats change registration to Republican. And if you go back another year to the last midterm, a total of registration changes from Democrat to Republican in 6 figures. Is it possible that Pennsylvania, even with the major urban areas of Philadelphia, that Pennsylvania could be in play in November?
The short answer is yes, JD. I think this is such an anomalous year. Both parties are going through tremendous changes on the surface and internally, less so the Democratic Party than the Republican Party. But I think there's such anomalous, and there's such a strong feeling of rejection of Obama, and concern about the establishment and concern about Washington, is that I think anything is possible. Is that I don't see Hillary winning in a landslide, but I see Trump, winning possibly comfortably if he runs the right type of campaign. Hillary becomes the issue, and then states like Pennsylvania and Connecticut come into play.
And let us add one more state to the Trump column tonight. According to a projection by NBC News, Donald Trump is winning our smallest state, the state of Rhode Island, now in the Trump column. So 4 out of 5 tonight to Donald Trump. We will continue to monitor the results to see how wide the margin is. Betsy McCaughey, by one standard, in much the same way we heard Ted Cruz say, well, it's no surprise Donald won his home state of New York. Is it that big a surprise that in Donald Trump's East Coast backyard he's doing so well tonight?
Well, actually, it's a very important issue, because what these votes reflect is economic desperation. Bernie Sanders is arguing about inequality, but what troubles most people is just the lack of jobs, the lack of economic opportunity. We have seen under the 8 Obama years, suicides in this country really spike as they haven't done since the Great Depression. And why are people literally killing themselves out of desperation? Because they can't find a job. Middle-aged white people, 45, 55, 60 years old, have totally give up. They've been in the job market year after year. And those who aren't resorting to such desperate acts are voting for Donald Trump because they hope he will bring jobs back to this country.
And let us turn now to another caller via telephone from the Peach State of Georgia. Here is Richard. Richard, welcome to America Votes 2016.
Hey, JD, it's good to talk to you tonight.
Thank you, Richard.
I just want to make a statement on the election. The reason most people is voting for Donald Trump, which includes myself, the American people is fed up with politicians, period. We are sick and tired of all these do-nothing politicians like John Kasich, like Ted Cruz, like all of them that's in office right now all over the country.
Richard, we very much appreciate that. We got you, sir. The frustration in what you say are do-nothing politicians. Now, I got to tell you, Sam, in defense of Ted Cruz and in defense of John Kasich, those are 2 gentlemen who happen to hold political office who have a solid record of accomplishment. I served alongside Kasich when he, as chairman of the Budget Committee, balanced four, count them, four federal budgets. And of course, Ted Cruz, we have seen him stand up to his own leadership. But as you know, Sam, this is based on perception, and the frustration that Richard is expressing is palpable, and there is a real concern if you have a title in front of your name as a senator, a governor, a member of Congress.
Look, and I was there, and Roger Stone and I helped design this strategy and this messaging. But what I would tell you is this. Donald started as the consummate outsider. But JD, one person who I don't like, who I personally think should be in jail, by the way, is Governor Chris Christie. And I see Chris Christie traveling with Donald to Indiana. I see him going to Ohio to campaign with Donald on a day when he should have been at a funeral for a New Jersey cop. Now, Donald has bragged about the fact that he's been talking to Mitch McConnell. Donald has tried to get Donald got the endorsement of somebody from Connecticut, some career politician the other day, and Donald said that he himself is going mainstream. Now also, do you think Donald's going to be funding his campaign in the general election? Do you think Donald is not going to be taking donor money? Do you think that Donald is going to have that argument of sanctity against this whole non-politician argument, this whole outsider? He's becoming the insider here. And the fact of the matter is that we have to be honest about this. The Donald Trump of last summer, the Donald Trump of even last October, last November, I don't know if that's the Donald Trump, that same Donald Trump that is Chris Christie introducing him in Florida on March 15th.
All right, let's let Betsy get in on this. Go ahead, Betsy.
I'm laughing at this. He can't think of anything bad to say about how Donald Trump has already performed, so he's speculating. It's pure speculation that the Donald Trump of the future will be offensive to people.
Betsy, do you think, hold on, it's pure speculation. Betsy, is Donald Trump going to put up $1 billion in the fall? Betsy, I want to ask you something. Wait, Betsy, I want to ask you something. When Charles and David Koch say they're not going to the convention, when you have people like Paul Singer and Hank Greenberg saying they're not going to support the candidates in the fall, what do you think is going to happen?
No.
What do you think is going to happen to the rest of the party?
Let's let Craig get in. Go ahead, Craig.
I want to know. What do you think? How is the party going to operate? Let's see it work out. Is Donald going to liquidate his properties?
Well, I've never heard this. The Koch brothers mentioned as an asset. Go ahead, Craig Shirley.
No, I'm just going to suggest that both stand in neutral corners and take a standing 10 count. Is that nobody can project into the future. There's nobody has a crystal ball. Nobody has the newspapers of next week, so nobody knows, and especially with Donald Trump, what type of campaign he's going to run in the fall. He still hasn't won the nomination, and I would suggest to you that unless he gets to Cleveland with enough ballots for a first ballot nomination, then his nomination is still up in the air. I would not, I know that's speculated that it'll just be handed to him. I tend to reject that. I think that there are still forces that are going to coalesce against Trump, and certainly he's not going to walk out of Cleveland as the head of a united Republican Party. I think that is for certain.
Final minute of this portion. Let's go back to the phone. Hang on a second. I need to get a caller in from Nevada. Phil is on the line. Phil, you got a minute. Make it count.
It's time for the Republican Party to unite. Donald Trump is truly the winner. Everybody wants him, and he can beat Hillary Clinton. That's all we need. We need him to beat Hillary Clinton.
All right, Phil from the battle-born state of Nevada, all ready for a battle in November in the general election, pitting Hillary Clinton against Donald Trump. Obviously, there's quite a way to go before we get to November. A convention in Cleveland for the Republicans. You heard Craig Shirley talk about the fact that, well, he didn't say it this way, but Yogi Berra would say it this way: it ain't over till it's over. We're going to continue our discussion in just a couple of minutes, but a reminder, the numbers for you to call to let your voice be heard: 1-877-NEWSMAX, 1-877-639-7629. And now those numbers are on your screen. And again, to reset the activity tonight, in terms of projections, 5 East Coast states holding primaries thus far. In 4 of them, Donald Trump has been projected as the winner. In Connecticut, in Maryland, in Rhode Island, and in Pennsylvania. And now we also get a projection before we go to break. CNN is reporting Donald Trump is the winner in Delaware. So a clean sweep from Donald Trump, almost scriptural. The first state is the last. in terms of projections. Back with more after this.